You got your question organised?
Okay, you ready to go?
Very
Yeah.
ready.
Thank you. No, no,
Good afternoon. Craig Lapps with the State Control Centre. Obviously today we'll talk very much about the weather and the weather conditions that we'll experience Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening and into Sunday. And to do that, Senior Forecaster Chris Godfreds is here, and I'll hand over to Chris first of all.
Thanks very much. Well, what we've basically seen today so far is we've seen northerly winds, especially across the central and western part of the state, and they've steadily grown stronger as the day goes on. So we've started to see gusts of about 70 kph over the far west, and also with that we've also gotten temperatures moving well into the 30s. They should peak at about 38, 39 in the far northwest late this afternoon. So the combination of those two factors plus the very low humidity further inland means that we have seen fire dangers rise to severe levels throughout central and western Victoria. So looking ahead into tonight, it will be a bit different to what most people are used to at night time. We're not really going to see the wind drop out. It's going to continue to be windy, and that will start to extend towards eastern Victoria as well. On top of that, it's not going to get cooler. We've forecast a minimum, for example, of 21 for Melbourne, but really it's not really going to fall below 25 for any great length of time. So most people across the state are basically set for a pretty uncomfortable night's sleep. Then as we move towards daybreak, it starts to get windier and the winds turn northwesterly, and that's ahead of a strong cold front. It's going to move across the state very quickly. It should be in the far southwest in Portland at about 5 or 6 in the morning, and then it should have gotten through Melbourne by about 10, and then to the far east of the state by about 1 or 2 in the afternoon. So we have very strong westerly flow driving that change. We're basically going to start to see wind gusts really rising, especially at night time about the Alps. We could be getting peak gusts getting up to 110, 120 k's about the eastern peaks of the Alps. So we do have a severe weather warning that covers that. And then as we move towards daybreak, that potential for damaging wind gusts starts to move towards the coast, especially near and behind the wind change. So it's a westerly wind change, so people need to be aware that the winds will start north to northwesterly, and then they'll suddenly shift to a westerly from late morning to the early part of the afternoon. From that point onwards, we will basically see temperatures drop quite a bit as well. So after a warm night, temperatures still hovering around the mid to high 20s around dawn. We'll see temperatures in southern Victoria drop to around 20 or maybe lower if you're right down on the west coast. We'll see a little bit of rain with the change, but not very high values, maybe 2 to 5 mils across most of the state, and perhaps 5 to 10 millimetres if you're in the far southwest, but that rain does dry up very quickly. So by the time we get to the afternoon, we're back to dry conditions across Victoria, and there's really not much in the way of significant rain at all for the northern half of the state. The strong winds and the potential for damaging gusts continue for the early part of the afternoon, and then from that point conditions do start to ease. So by the time we get to sunset Sunday, we'd be optimistic that the severe weather warning would have been cancelled by then. Winds will still be fresh, especially if you're near exposed coastal parts, but the potential for damage would have passed by then.
Thanks, Chris. That's fairly comprehensive for what is a very complex weather scenario, and that's been one of our challenges obviously over the last number of days, is how to describe what is a summer day that's come back across Victoria Saturday, and with very strong winds, and the challenging part of the strong winds that they'll be strong all night. Now, what does that mean? In a fire sense, if we've got fires running, we'll see fires move around in the night with level of intensity and fire behaviour that will be quite erratic. So far today, we've had 31 fires. All of those have been brought under control very quickly with initial response with helicopters or aircraft and firefighters. Places like Leongatha started this morning with a grass fire in the very early part of the day, well controlled, but told us that we had the potential to see fires grow in the landscape very quickly. Plenty Gorge, another great save in the Plenty Gorge, one of those places that we never wish to have fires, and also grass fires at Yarrambat in the eastern suburbs of Vermont South, and we're still watching the fire at Seaview in Gippsland. So none of those are growing in size, all under control, but obviously the day's only early as we speak, with those being the 3 o'clock summary. From that, SES has also been busy, or getting busier, with just on 50 calls for assistance. Most of those are for trees down and people needing assistance with those. And as a result, there's been some local outages of power, but none significant at this point in time. So the day still plays out with strong winds. Saturday we see still 6 weather districts with severe fire danger and 6 total fire ban districts, which are all in the western side of Victoria and central, including Melbourne, and the total fire bans for those districts stay in place until midnight. And Sunday we'll see 2 districts with total fire bans. One will be the southwestern part, the southwestern weather district, and the central. The reason for those, and it's a very interesting discussion to have around total fire bans, because the temperatures drop but the wind speeds stay up. And we've got overnight temperatures staying up. In some parts, the hottest part of the day will be at breakfast time. So obviously the overnight temperatures, and after the change moves through, it cools. What we have got though is severe fire danger in the open grasslands from Mortlake to Skipton, including Meredith, including Werribee, Geelong, the open grasslands of the southwest. That has prompted the need to put a total fire ban in, and to ensure that people are reminded that it's illegal to have a fire in the open. So the total fire bans, although they cover the southwestern and the central weather districts, which are large areas of Victoria, are very much focused on the grasslands in and around Geelong, Melbourne, and as I said, Werribee right back to Mortlake. From that, we think this is quite a significant weather event, in the sense that the winds remain strong all night. That is something we don't always experience, and we're seeing dry weather, hot weather overnight, and windy weather. Now, if we do have fires running and they run into the night, that is quite challenging for communities, especially if it's a fire that starts late in the day, and therefore people have to think about their plan. And most people in Victoria would think about bushfires being during the day, and we prompt people to think tonight, this afternoon, about what about if there was a fire in their district in the night hours, what would they do, and how would they react and behave. And obviously that's a time to think about that now. So the good news is that we haven't got any major fires running in the state, but we have had a number of small fires that have been contained through initial response, and our firefighters have done a fantastic job. SES emergency workers are out there doing their work, and obviously with police and ambulance. Over to questions.
Craig, there's been a couple of fires this morning in Melbourne's outer suburbs around Mill Park. Do we know how they were caused?
We haven't got cause yet, no. We haven't. All of those will be investigated. We haven't seen lightning, so we would assume that it's been the human hand, and that's obviously why they're investigated. There has been lightning in the state, but we haven't detected lightning in those areas, so they will be investigated. Obviously, grass fires in Yarrambat, Plenty Gorge, they're not far apart from each other, around the same time, so we'll ensure that they are investigated in the right process. Eastern suburbs, Vermont South, so you've got some that are in suburbia and some that are on the edges or the outskirts of metropolitan Melbourne.
Of those 31 fires, how many are suspicious?
Well, we'll put them at the moment that they need to be investigated, and obviously we'll use those figures to understand it. I think the message is that we don't want anyone to light a fire in these conditions. And if anyone sees suspicious behaviour, particularly around roadsides, particularly around areas that can be accessed by vehicles, they need to report that, and report it reasonably quick. So obviously Crime Stoppers or a phone call into 000 is the places to report fires, and behaviour that is criminal behaviour needs to be reported through Crime Stoppers. So we prompt that. What we do rely on is the Victorian community to be vigilant about each and everyone's behaviour, and if we see suspicious behaviour, to report it.
Are there any telltale signs of what a potential firebug looks like?
Look, firebugs are interesting in the sense that we've got people that are motivated by arson, and to me it's very strongly a mental health issue. That is someone that's motivated to light fire, and if they're motivated to light fire, they're motivated to cause harm. And then you've got others that are just reckless in the sense that they may use a piece of machinery and not understand the consequence of what a grinder, a welder might do. So obviously the reckless is the one that we'd like to see the prevention, and obviously those that are motivated in an arsonist sense, we rely heavily on family and friends to report them, and they will have behaviour issues that continue through about the way in which they behave around fire and play with fire. Any others? All right, thank you.